Hi everybody, this is Christine. Welcome to Scrappin' Rabbit. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this little altered book stack. These used to be quite popular a few years ago, and somebody came upon one of my older videos and asked if I had a tutorial, and I didn't, so I figured I may as well go ahead and make one, and I'll do the tutorial at the same time. So this is what I came out with. I will include a link to my first book stack that I created a few years ago. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of what it looks like. I've got lots of embellishments on here, and I've got 3 books that I made, and these are actually made with chipboard and some with little cardboard boxes that I had. And these little drawers open. I will eventually put this in my Etsy shop, but I'm going to make some little mini albums to put in first. But in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to construct these from scratch, and then covering the covers of the books and making these little pull tabs, and how I went about deciding on laying out the books and attaching them together, and the embellishments that I used. So let's get started. So we're going to start by making the books in the book stack. I've already got 2 of them made. Now you can either make these out of cardstock, or if you have some boxes laying around, you can use those as well. For example, I've got some boxes here ready to use from a pack of frozen ribs. I can use that, or I can use chipboard or just regular cardstock, a thick cardstock, to make my own box. And this is the part that I'm talking about. This is a section where the drawer slides inside, and then the top and the bottom of the book are made of a thick chipboard that attaches on both sides like that to form the book. So I'm going to start by making the inside part. Now, this is where you can make it either from a box that you already have, that you cut to the size that you want. In this case, I used a box of ribs. Or you can also make your own from a piece of cardstock. And I'll give you the template that shows how to measure the size that you need. For example, this little book here, this measures about 4 inches deep by 5 inches across, and it's 1 inch high in thickness. So I start by laying out my measurements. It's 5 inches wide by 4 inches deep, and it's 1 inch wide. So this is what the cut piece will end up looking like. So this would be my width by my height, and then I add 1 inch on each side for the thickness. And then here in the center, I would have 1 inch wide here where it folds over for the inch thickness. And then this part here is the same as the one on top. So when I'm measuring my pieces, all I need to do is add the thickness to the outside and in between the top and the bottom pieces. So in this case, if I had 5 inches by 4 inch book, I would end up with a piece of cardstock that measures 7 inches wide for 5 inches wide plus 1 inch on each side by 11 inches high, because I have 4 inches here, 4 inches here. Sorry, it's 9 inches high. This is wrong. By 9 inches high. 4 inches here, 4 inches here, and 1 inch on the back. So then you cut your piece and you would score 1 inch on either side, here and here, and then this would measure 4 inches here, and then you would score these lines here So that would be at 4 inches. And then here, which is an inch further, and then my last piece would be 4 inches here. Okay, so that's how you would cut your own piece. Now this isn't the same dimension as this. It's a little bit larger, but I wanted to keep the numbers easy so you can figure out your own dimensions based on what size book that you want. So then once you've cut your piece and you've scored along these lines, you would cut across here and here and here and here, and that will give you these flaps so that you can then fold this inside and fold these pieces over like that to form the inside of the book. Then once that's done, I will glue these together. I will mat the top and the bottom and attach them on either side, and that will form the book. And then I will make the little drawer separately. So let's start by adhering this together. I'll use some, you can use glue. I think I'll just use some two-sided tape. Actually, I'll just use some glue for that. I've got this Eileen's tacky glue that works really well. Now, when you're gluing, keep the matte part, if you're using a box, keep the matte part on the inside so that that's all you're going to see on the inside. Otherwise, if you flip it over on the inside of your box, you're going to see this and it doesn't look nice. So work with the matte part on the inside. So that's going to fold in like this. So I'm going to apply some glue to this section. Like that. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Like that, and let that dry. Then I'm going to put glue on these long flaps. Then I fold this up like that, and I'm going to let this dry. So here's my glued inside of the book. And the next thing I want to do is I want to do the sides here that will look like the pages inside the book. So I've got these little strips of paper that I cut so that they just wrap over the edges on the sides and they're the same height. And I put some two-sided tape on here. I think what I'll do is I'll put some two-sided tape as well, just along these edges to make sure that it stays nice and secure. And I want to really line this up with this cut edge. I think I'll put a little piece of tape along here as well. So I get a nice flat edge. Now if you want to, you can ink the edges. But for this one, I'll just leave them as is. And then I do the same thing on the other side. Now this part won't be visible because I'm going to be putting the book covers on these pieces, and I cut these from thick chipboard, and they're just about 1/8 of an inch wider on each side and a little bit thicker. If you lay this flat with the back, it's about 1/8 of an inch. It sticks out on the front like that. So it's just like a regular book where the covers will wrap over the pages like that. Now before I attach these, I'm going to cover my covers with some scrapbook paper. So I picked the paper that I'm going to use to wrap my covers, and I'm going to trim it so that I have about 1/2 inch of paper all around that will allow me to wrap the chipboard. So I'm just going to eyeball this. I know I can get 2 pieces on this section of paper, and I will have easily 1/2 inch all around. Yeah, so that's good like that. So I'm going to do the same to both covers. I add a little bit of two-sided tape. I don't need a whole lot. This is just to hold it in place while I wrap. So I'm going to center this on the wrong side of the paper. Like that. Then I can use a ruler and pen, or again, I'm just going to eyeball, and I'm going to cut these corners diagonally, leaving about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, probably more like 1/8 of an inch from the corner. Like that. So I'm cutting diagonally at each corner. Then I put some two-sided tape along the outer edge, including the diagonal cuts. I just fold on each side. Like that. And now I can begin wrapping the covers. Press down on the corner here to get a nice crisp fold. So there's one cover that will attach to my book. Like that. So do the same thing to the other cover. So my covers are wrapped, and I've got my glue gun heating up, and I'm going to attach them on either side of my book box. Like that. So you can see the little edge. If I center that, it's flat against the back, and then there's a little edge on the left, the right, and the front. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on one side, close to the edge, but I don't want to go over where it's going to be visible on the sides. And then I'm just going to center this left to right along the back edge of the cover of the book, like that. And then let it cool for a bit. Like that. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing with this side. Center left to right. And then I let that cool. Like that. So now I want to put the covering on the back, but before I do that, what I did on these is I put a little bit of lace that sticks out the front and the bottom. You don't have to do that because this whole section will be covered anyways, but I want to do the same thing on these pieces. So I just trim these little pieces of lace and I'm going to glue them like that before I cover the spine. Let's put a little bit of glue on here. Like that. And then I'll do the same thing at the other end. And I'll let that cool. Now on these books I used some scrapbook paper to form the spine, and I think on this one I'm just going to use a piece of fabric. I have this beautiful mauve velour that I think will look nice with that. So I cut it so that it's the same height as the book and it extends about an inch over the front and the back. So it covers the spine like that. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. Because I'm using fabric, I'm going to use my glue gun. Then I'll put some more glue along the spine. And then right on the fabric. And just along the edges. And this is going to stack up like that. So the next thing I need to do is to make the little drawer that's going to go inside here.